candles are burning low. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather around the table, we'll give you a treat. Save need to play with and lots of sweets. And while we are playing.
Hag Sameach, friends, grace and peace be upon you, and welcome to night 5 of Hanukkah. Tonight we're going to talk about becoming aware of perspectives. And we're going to talk about a topic that is all over the book of Ecclesiastes, and that is toil, labor, or work. Now, in some passages we see where Solomon speaks about toil or labor as meaningless. But then there are passages where he talks about work in a positive light, and he talks about the fact that we can really enjoy work if we see work as a gift from God. So that's what we're going to be zeroing in on in our discussion today. And I would like for us to jump right into chapter 2. We're going to read from verse 17 to 20. And we're going to see one of the reasons why Solomon saw toil as something meaningless. So it says, I hated life, because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me. All of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. I hated all the things I had toiled for under the sun, because I must leave them to one who comes after me. And who knows whether that person will be wise or foolish, yet they will have control over all the fruit of my toil, into which I have poured my effort and skill under the sun. This too is meaningless. So my heart began to despair over all my toilsome labor under the sun. So one of the reasons why Solomon saw work or toil as meaningless had to do with the fact that life is brief. And one day he says, I'm going to leave all this, and I'm going to have to leave it to someone who may not even appreciate all of my hard work. And they will probably not even respect the things that I have toiled so hard for. So to him, it was meaningless to put all this effort into toiling and laboring and so on. Now, one of the things that I would like for us to do tonight is to look at another perspective of work. I'd like for us to go back to the book of beginnings, to the book of Bereshit. When God created Adam, the Bible tells us that he put Adam in the garden, and he said to Adam, I want you to keep and care for the garden. I've shared with you before that this is actually priestly language. So God created Adam as the first priest, and he gave him dominion and authority. He said to him, you are to keep and guard, or keep and care the garden. And so the work that Adam was given was an act of service. In the Hebrew, work, avodah, is also the same word for worship. So when God created work, it was meant to be an act of worship unto God. However, when we get to Genesis chapter 3, after the fall, God said to Adam, because of what you've done, your work will become toilsome, wearisome, burdensome. He said, from the sweat of your brow you are going to eat, and when you till the soil, it will produce thorns for you, because that's a consequence of sin. That's a consequence of the fall. Now, in the Hebrew, the word for toil is amal, and it gives us the idea of just what we've been talking about, burdensome and wearisome labor, okay? And in Jewish thought, this toil is seen as a consequence of sin, a consequence of man's fallen nature. Now, for those of us who have been restored, we have experienced a rebirth through the Messiah. It means that we have the eyes to begin to see things in a different way, because we now see things through the eyes of the Spirit and not through the eyes of the flesh. Paul says that if you have been born again, you are no longer led by the sin nature. You no longer see things through the eyes of the flesh, but now our eyes have been opened and we begin to see things through the eyes of the Spirit. We can begin to see our work in the way that God originally intended work to be. Whether our job is to work in an organization at the top of the ladder, in the middle of the ladder, or even at the bottom of the ladder. Whether we are called to be stay-at-home moms, whether we are called to be stay-at-home dads, whether we're called to be ministers of the word, or we're called to just pour into people. You see, friends, if we begin to see our jobs in a new light, and if we begin to have a new perspective on our jobs and see it as a gift from God, a way that we're able to contribute to society, a way that we're able to contribute to the lives of others in a meaningful way, a way that we're able to help build up God's creation, then we will begin to see work in the way that it was originally intended, which is as an act of service or an act of worship. And we already know that yes, work can be stressful and work can at times feel as if it is meaningless. But nothing is meaningless. Everything that we do as believers, we're doing unto God. We're doing unto God. And even sometimes when we feel as if our efforts are not recognized, remember that an act of worship is not unto man. An act of worship is unto God. So, another step to finding meaning and purpose in life is to see and understand work from a new perspective. Not as something that is wearisome and burdensome and heavy. Even though, yes, there are times when it is so. We live in a broken world. Things are not always going to be wonderful. But we have the power through the Spirit to begin to see things in a new light. And we can begin to see our work as a gift from God and also as an opportunity to contribute to God's creation. Thank you so much for having joined us today, and until we meet again, Chag Sameach and happy 5th night of Hanukkah.
Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. Said evil mean to play with your life as we do. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind